we started off in what I'm going to call the intuitive, or just to use the terrible words that most business people hate to hear, the soft side. It's a funny thing. When I go to do programs, people say, well, that's touchy-feely soft stuff. And all they really mean is, I can't intellectually frame it. So there must be something suspect about it. And yet, everybody's had the experience. If you don't respect that kind of a wise voice, if you will, you rationalize it away. Your intellect will rationalize it away and say, oh, well, he's, this or he's that, or so on and so on. And then how many times do you come back later and find out, in fact, it was right on and you should have been listening. You should have paid attention to that. Now, it's nothing mystical at all. It's that we are capable of picking up about people, about situations, a wiser voice, if you will, because that's how we were born. If you look at little children, they're, I think, perfect examples. When kids are very small, very young, they have nothing but so-called intuition to start with. They live in the soft side totally. They live by instinct. They just live in the moment and are learning all the time. And they have very little logic about things. They just know the things they like, and they enjoy life, and they enjoy doing things. They tend to be very spontaneous and very happy, joyful human beings. And those are some of the marks of living in the soft side, or living in a more intuitive way. Well, that resource, if you will, is something we were born with. It's common sense. It's access to creativity, or what we'll call original thought. We're capable of accessing and listening to life in a way that's very meaningful. It's very simple. Let me show you what we have found a healthy, functioning mind looks like. It has a range of capacities, which include all the intellectual things we've talked about, the ability to analyze, compare, evaluate, judge, extrapolate, reason, and so on. It has the ability to retrieve data and information, but it is not limited by data and information. It's not limited by memory, which the intellectual is. The intellectual is trapped and limited by what's already there. So in addition to those capacities, those so-called intellectual capacities, there's also capacity for original thought, to have something brand new come through. It has access to what we would call wisdom, profound insight into life. That arena of common sense, wisdom, and so on naturally is engaging with people. So the feeling when you're operating in that realm is people experience you as warm, as understanding. When you listen from a full spectrum and you're not processing intellectually what someone says, what happens is you hear beyond the words, so to speak. You begin to understand what it is people are trying to communicate. You don't get stuck on the words. When people operate in the full spectrum of a healthy mind, they have all elements available to them, but what's true is that common sense, wisdom, and perspective and humanity becomes the boss.
Hello, I'd like to welcome all of you to the celebration of the well-lived life of Robert Kausen. Well, I'm so glad to see so many of you here today, family and friends. It's wonderful to be celebrating the life of a man who really knew how to celebrate life. Some of you know Robert as Robert, some of you know him as Bob. My favorite name for Robert was Robert, because he was such a beautiful bear of a man, like a teddy bear. Teddy bear is such a universal symbol of arms wide open, being unconditionally loving in life. And that sure fit Robert. He was so beautifully present and warm and loving. He was a big man. He was a big man in stature, he was a big man in heart, and he was a big man in spirit. He really knew how to live life large, didn't he? You know, I was talking with Valerie the other day, and I was telling her how everywhere I went recently, I'd be going for a walk in the woods, and I would feel Robert's presence, and it was with me so tangible, and it was like he was in the trees and in the flowers and in the wind. And Valerie said, well, he's just gotten bigger. And he sure has. He's really gotten bigger. I loved Robert's eyes. I loved looking into Robert's eyes. There was such presence and warmth and depth and kindness in his eyes. But I tell you, what I noticed was when he most came alive was when he was talking about you, when he was talking about his family and his friends. I loved asking him to talk about his family. Oh, to see the light in his eyes just blaze. And I'm sure many of you experienced this. One time I was with Robert and we were having breakfast before we were getting ready to do a business training together. We did a lot of business trainings together. And he reaches into his briefcase and he pulls out this sheet of, like a contact sheet with, apparently it looked like there were just 100 little thumbnail sketches of every person in his family. And oh, did he enjoy talking about each of you. He just delighted in each of you. And Robert was able to see the real core in all of you. I mean, he prided himself on being able to see the well-being in people, and he could look beyond even what you thought of yourself and how you thought about yourself, and he was able to look beyond that and see the real person deep inside. Well, Robert was a rare combination, wasn't he? He was an engineer, and he was simultaneously he was a mystic. And you know, when I would bring Robert in to talk to some of the companies that I was working with, the people in the company would just love Robert. They loved his quiet way, and they love his presence, and they love the authority with which he spoke, and they loved his gentleness. And often during a training, people would pull me aside and say, that Robert of yours, he's really wise, isn't he? And he sure was. You know, Robert was someone who in my mind really walked the talk. He was such a dear friend. I just loved spending time with him. And I know there were some things that Robert really, really loved to talk about. One of the things that he loved to talk about was intuition, that wise voice deep within everyone, and how it's in everybody whether you know it or not. And when our minds get quiet, we can hear that still voice speaking through us, and how important it was for us to learn to listen to that voice. And Robert, another favorite phrase of his, again, I'm sure you've heard him use the term the back burner. And he would tell anyone, there's no need to struggle with your problems. There's no reason to overthink them. And if thinking about a problem just makes it, gets you anxious or is stressful, put the problem on the back burner. Put it into the back of your mind and let it simmer. And then it will come back to you fresh, right? And I remember one time after we had one of our long talks, and I love having these heart-to-heart talks with Robert. He just loved talking about the spiritual nature of life, the innate well-being in people. And we finished talking, and he says, well, I think I'll spend the evening simmering and popping. Isn't that beautiful? Simmering and popping. You put it on the back burner and you let it simmer. And then at some point, something new and fresh and alive will occur to you. Your own wisdom will bring you the answers that you're looking for. Your own wisdom will bring you creativity and solutions and new ideas that are enlivening and fresh. The other thing Robert loved to talk about was he loved talking about being in the zone. You know, it's an analogy or metaphor from sports, where if you when you become really present in sports, they call that being in the zone. And Robert understood that as you understood the nature of your mind, you understood the nature of thought, that would lead you time and time again into the now, into the present moment, into being in the zone. And Robert was someone who really walked his talk. Now, I really mean this. He walked his talk. Was some of my favorite moments of spending time with Robert over the years. Boy, we were dear friends. We went back to meeting Robert in 1986, and we just hit it off immediately. And one of my favorite things was just walking around with Robert. I remember one time we were walking through the little town of Laconner where I live, and I looked over at Robert, and he just had this wide open look of sheer enjoyment. His senses were wide open. He was just taking in everything. And it really affected me to be around someone who was that deeply present and at peace. I'll never forget that look on his face and in his eyes. So I feel like Robert's presence is with us now, and we're walking through life, and his presence is still with us, and it is gently reminding us all to walk through life with our eyes wide open, deeply rooted in our heart. Well, thank you all for coming, and we'll move on now to the next portion of our program. Thank you.
embrace, and my spirit soared high. I saw your eyes in the window pane as I watched the falling rain. It seemed as each raindrop fell, it quietly said your name. I hold you close in my heart today. It made me feel complete. You may have died, but you are not gone. You will always be a part of me. As long as the sun shines, the wind blows, the rain falls, you will live on inside of me forever, for that is all my heart knows.
I met Robert, 60 years ago in September. I was 18, just, and a freshman in college, and he was 20, a senior at Caltech. He had decided he wanted to get married after graduation and before he enlisted in the Army. As most of you know, when Bob had a plan, it was often unwise to get in the way. I seemed to meet his criteria for whatever reason, and I too was ready to get married. We got pinned in November. I'll explain that to people who don't know what that means. Engaged in February on Valentine's Day, and married in June, 2 days after he graduated from college. Wasn't that bad. I followed him to San Francisco, to Baltimore, Maryland, to Monterey, California, to Berlin, Germany, to Belmont and Billerica, Massachusetts, and finally back to California. He's the father of my 3 extraordinary children, 2 of whom were born in Massachusetts and the last one in Newport Beach. We met and merged our family with Jim and Dee Dee and their superlative children, Cindi, Scott, and Marc, in 1969. Living all 10 of us together for 3 intense and amazing years. Bob said it was a creative divorce and that he wouldn't do it again on a bet, but he wouldn't have missed it for the world. I, for one, have felt a part of this extended, inclusive family ever since, and consider Dee Dee as close as I can get to having a loving and understanding sister. But I call her my ex-wife-in-law. I loved Robert dearly and miss him deeply, as I know all of you do. When he and I were young, we sometimes talked about death, and when I read Mary Oliver's powerful poem called When Death Comes, I felt that it closely expressed what I think Robert believed and lived, and certainly what I believe and try to live. When death comes, like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me, and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the measles pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore, I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And I look upon time as no more than an idea. And I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy and as singular. And each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, toward silence. And each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say all my life, I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. And finally, which is not part of the poem, but when I get to heaven, and I'm an atheist, so that might not happen, but that's where atheists go, by the way. When I get to heaven and St. Peter asks me, "Did you get the joke?" I don't want to have to say what joke. Thank you.
A podium. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. It's strange for me. I stand at a podium quite a bit, but I usually start out with, "My name is Jim and I'm an alcoholic." Thank you. But I haven't had to have a drink for 35 years, so that everybody is grateful for that. This is a reading that I was given to read. I read it and I really enjoy it. It's called "Weep Not for Me." Weep not for me, though I am gone into the gentle night. Grieve, if you will, but not for long upon my soul's sweet flight. There is no need for tears. I am at peace and my soul is at rest. There is no pain, I suffer not, for with your love I was so blessed. I am in a place of comfort, the fear now is gone. Put those things out of your thoughts, in your memory I live on. Remember not my fight for breath, remember not the strife. Please do not dwell upon my death, but celebrate my life. And the part of that is, one part that's really important to me, is that in your memory I live on. And I'm not an atheist. I'm an agnostic, but I'm not an atheist. But I believe we all, if there's, for me, the life hereafter, I think, is the life that we remember of each other, that we hold in our hearts and remember. I've been thinking the past couple days about Bob, and it's always easier for me to put things in a category. Makes it easy because then I kind of know where it is, and I can go from there. But there isn't a category for our relationship, for what we had, that I can think of. It was just there, and I mean, we've both been married to the same two women at times. We've lived together for several years, for 3 years. We had a relationship together, which I don't think there was never any animosity between us or anything, and I don't think there was really any competition. We're both very different people, and it just seemed to fit for some reason. I'm sure a lot of it had to do with him and his acceptance and all. And I was so admiring of him, and when he went from a trained chemist working in the field to engineering to follow his heart and go into a different way of life. And I thought that was absolutely, I envied that he could do that. I never found a place to do. I just went wherever I went. But I really admired him, and we had a wonderful relationship, I think. Maybe brothers, I don't know, but closer than that, I think, and different than that. But I miss him, and I think that's good. That's good, because it keeps it fresh in my mind. And thank you.
There's more stuff here. Okay, I'll read this one. Robert wrote this. I found this in a book. It's a book that someone else wrote, but there were chapters written by, each chapter was written by a different person. And I found this thing that he wrote about gratitude. This is gratitude, the unending wellspring. Gratitude is a feeling that comes from a wise state of being. Picture of family celebrations such as Christmas or Hanukkah. Gifts have been given. You have shared in a beautiful meal prepared with great love. And as you look around at your family and friends, you feel grateful. You are grateful for the beautiful people in your life, grateful for your bounty of fortune, grateful that you are alive and well and able to share in this moment. You are grateful that you are you. As you experience in this moment, something inside of you feels like it is growing and expanding and pouring out in all directions. You feel like the benevolent king or queen who gives away an entire fortune to the kingdom. You feel expansive and infinite in your capacity to give and love. That feeling, that insight is a powerful key to providing a higher and higher tone in the environment of all of our relationships. It is contagious. To find gratitude in all things is to find the key to life.
We'd like to do some readings and have some people come up and give some reflections as well. Cindi?
It's terrible having to actually read after seeing a video montage like that made me cry. So this is not my best moment. Oh, yes. And that was in, I think, March of this year when I came to visit. I thought, I don't really want to spend a lot of time doing a eulogy and speaking about all my memories of being with Robert, which is really not, he's not Robert to me, he's Bob. He's always been Bob to me. When he switched over to Robert, I said, screw it. I'm sorry. I'm just not calling you Robert. Your name is Bob. It's been Bob since I was 11 years old, and it's going to remain that way. Last week, I dreamt of Bob. He came to me very vividly in a dream. He looked exactly like he did when I was about 14 years old, and we were living together on Astor Place in Costa Mesa. And he came in smiling and grabbed me and twirled me around and said, I'm happy, and I want you to be happy too, and everything is fine with me here. And I'm like, yay. That's great. And it was as quick as it was, as he entered my dream, he left, and I went on to other things. And with that, I found a reading that really spoke to me. And so instead of going into stories, I thought I would express myself through this reading. It's by Henry Scott Holland. The name is Death is Nothing at All. Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away into the next room. I am I, and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we still are. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in an easy way, which you always used to. Put no difference in your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we've always laughed at little jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effect, without the trace of a shadow on it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same that it ever was. There is absolutely unbroken continuity. Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am waiting for you for an interval, somewhere near, just around the corner. And next will be my brother Scott.
So I'm Scott, and Bob was also Bob to me for a long time, and I embraced Robert just as much. Robert was lucky enough, oh, that's sweet. Robert was lucky enough to get me and take care of me through some of my, let's say, how do we describe the years? Some hard years to take care of a young, strong, young teenage boy. So I loved him dearly, dearly, and I am so grateful to have had him in my life and to still be in my life, in my heart forever. He was an awesome, awesome person, and I know you all know that through your own experiences that you've had with him. So this is Look for Me in Rainbows. Time for me to go now. I won't say goodbye. Look for me in rainbows way up in the sky. In the morning sunrise when all the world is new, just look for me and love me as you know I loved you. Time for me to leave you, I won't say goodbye. Look for me in rainbows high up in the sky. In the evening sunset when all the world is through, just look for me and love me and I'll be close to you. It won't be forever, the day will come and then my loving arms will hold you when we meet again. Time for us to part now. We won't say goodbye. Look for me in rainbows shining in the sky. Every waking moment and all your whole life through, just look for me and love me as you know I loved you. Just wish me to be near and I'll be there with you. Thank you.
Hello there. I always have a hard time with things like this, so I wanted to express my thoughts on Bob, or Bobbert, as that is Amy's. Bob was always Amy's Bobbert, so I think she found a great way to express his name. I wanted to read a few thoughts of mine, and I was thinking about what the passing meant to me, and I wanted to make sure it was short because I don't last very long on these things. And this is called "The Vessel is Gone." The vessel is gone, worn down by the years and the miles. The container, the vessel, the vehicle was driven by a fire of knowledge and love. And like that ever-present sourdough starter in the fridge door, you took a little bit of that fire and added it to mine. So now you're gone, but you're not gone. The vessel is gone. But the fire that drove that vessel is still burning in the fire that drives this vessel and every other fire that you fed with your knowledge and love. Thank you for giving us this. We will carry it with us forever and try to the best of our abilities to add it to the fires of others. Thank you. And now, another father of mine. I've been blessed to have many. Our wonderful friend, Joe Sanfilippo.
I met Robert Kausen almost 40 years ago in August of 1977, when he and Dee Dee moved into the new home across the driveway from us in San Rafael, and they came over to borrow a corkscrew to open a bottle of wine to celebrate the occasion. Over the years, we built up a friendship and bond that could never be broken. This was somewhat surprising because initially I was intimidated by his brilliance. Robert was a Caltech grad in chemical engineering. I grew up in the Pasadena area and aspired to attend Caltech, but could never make the grade. I understood that Caltech was among the top technical institutions in the country. My insecurities quickly melted away as we got to know each other, and I understood the genuineness of his friendship. In fact, I was surprised to learn that he no longer had a career in engineering, but did, in my opinion, a 180-degree turn to follow his heart into the pursuit of the human condition. We became friends and spent a great deal of time together, going out to dinner, art shows, neighborhood parties, and soaking in our hot tub with a glass of wine. We shared many dinners together, and New Year's Eve was special. I remember one year, all four guys planned, shopped, and prepared a gourmet dinner while the wives sat around and watched. We cleaned up, too. We made sure the meal was eaten slowly so our handiwork would be appreciated and not be overlooked. It turned out to be a fabulous evening. One other evening, the Causens hosted a catered black-tie dinner party with black and white catered servers, another memorable evening. We were introduced to Robert's family and he to ours. We were amazed that there was such a strong relationship among their ex-spouses who married each other. So much so that when their exes visited on holidays and special occasions, and there was no room to accommodate them at the Kausen home, they would occasionally stay in our home to be close to family. If any of you follow them on Facebook, you know that the love between them endures today. As our friendship grew, I became more and more interested in Robert's work at Life Spring. My wife Karen and I decided that we should participate in the training Life Spring offered, and we signed up for the initial course. The program had an impact on my life and raised my level of understanding and drew me closer to Robert. Robert eventually moved on beyond LifeSpring and had a successful career in consulting with organizations and developing their managers. I too retired and eventually ran a management development company in San Francisco, catering to managers in Fortune 1000 companies. Because Robert's book on dealing with successful, meaningful business meetings was a topic of interest to my member companies, I brought him in to lead one of my seminars. It was good to work together. Our friendship went way beyond business. Robert helped me not just in my personal life, but in practical life too. I was not particularly handy and had the minimum number of household tools. Robert, on the other hand, had the knowledge to fix and or build things along with all the tools to get the job done. Hence, when I needed a particular tool, I would call on Robert, and he was kind enough to oblige me. He would not only loan me the tools, he would often help me with the project if it was tricky. I remember he offered me guidance in building a wide gate for a storage area next to my house. Big project for me. Robert lived large, very large. He often had grandiose ideas, and Dee Dee would have to corral him so things wouldn't get out of hand. She was the buffer that kept him grounded. Her constant love and support enabled him to achieve his goals. For a long time, Robert's dream was to move up to the Trinity Alps where he could fish and enjoy the beauty of the area with the love of his life, Dee Dee. Although we were miles apart, about a 5-hour drive, we always kept in touch. It didn't matter that we were not physically close. We never missed a beat in our friendship. We eventually moved to Roseville, which is northeast of Sacramento, and they would stay with us on the way down to Orange County, the Bay Area, or Sacramento, and we traveled up to their beautiful home along the Coffee Creek. The grounds were so well kept, mostly by Dee Dee, that it felt like you were visiting a national park. Robert absolutely loved living in Coffee Creek. Whenever I had a challenge, either in my business or personal life, I would always turn to Robert for advice. He never turned me down, nor did he marginalize the issue, but would talk me through it. Recently, Dee Dee's sister, Tricia, hi Tricia, called to tell me that when she was visiting Robert not too long ago, Robert told her that I was like a brother to him. I was deeply touched and honored to learn this. I had the same feelings about him, but never expressed it. Actions do speak louder than words. Okay, Cloughs and Causens, I am part of the family now. Too bad. As I remember Robert, I think of 3 words: love, trust, connection. I will miss him, but never forget him. In closing, I would like to read a quote from the Prophet by the famous Lebanese-American artist, poet, and writer Khalil Gibran. And let the best be for your friend. If he must know the ebb of your tide, let him know its flood also. For what is your friend that you should seek with him hours to kill? Seek him always with hours to live. For it is his to fill your need, but not your emptiness. And in the sweetness of friendship, let there be laughter and the sharing of pleasures. For in the dew of little things, the heart finds its morning and is refreshed. Thank you.
Whoa, he sure saw delight. I tell you, what a beautiful, beautiful video there. Now we have the pleasure to hear from Todd, Craig, and Valerie.
Craig? Valerie? All right. Way to leave me hanging, bro. Again. Let me just check and see. Just need to make a couple of quick phone calls. quick selfie. Nobody else had done that? Thanks, Dad. I was going to do it with you guys if you were up here. Well, I was given very explicit instructions to be serious. Already screwed that up already, I can see. I think the easiest thing for me to talk about is something that comes naturally to me, and that's Dad's humor and the fun he had in life. It's pretty well known that I got my sense of humor from Dad's ex-wife's dad. And so that really isn't relevant here today, but I didn't choose this photo. Why is this photo up here? Dad always had fun, and he loved to have a good time. And I loved making him laugh. It was awesome. It's usually my goal to try and make any family member laugh when I'm around family. My 60 seconds of being nervous isn't quite up yet, so I need to stall. But what I was thinking, now that Dad's not here, and I need to talk about fun, it really begs the question that a lot of questions have gone unanswered now. And now that he's not here, we won't be able to find the answers to some of these questions. And some of those questions are going to be illustrated right up here, like, why did he pinch his little sister in the crib and make her cry like that? And why does he have such a joyful look on his face? I just don't think that's right. I guess we'll never know. Why did he take his dog out to the middle of the woods and release it to be lost? That's just wrong. Why? Luckily, somebody was there to catch the photo, and he brought it back. Why did he wear these pants? What was he thinking? Really don't know. I think those are 2950s. Not sure. Who taught him to do makeup? Anyone? This was going out one evening. I'm not sure. Maybe Caltech wasn't the place to go, Joe, because this might have been. How could he embarrass us like this in front of our own front yard, walking around? No straight man would ever play a banjo like this. There might be some question about, I'm not sure, but you can see I'm trying to get out of there as fast as I can. I kind of pimped that one too quick, sorry. Why is it acceptable to dangle your baby over the railing like that? And in his defense, I think he only dropped me a couple of times. Explains a lot, but as you already saw, actually, I think he learned it from his father. So this is a Kausen tradition, and I think I have dropped all of my kids at one point trying to do something along this. Why did he think it was a good idea to gather all the children in the neighborhood and take us out into the woods? I think later he told me this was a game called let's go out into the middle of the woods and good luck getting home later. I don't think there's anyone over 2 years old in that picture. That's just wrong. Why did he join a motorcycle gang? What happened there? That's him on the left. This is the dreaded Newport Beach motorcycle gang. I'm really not sure that worked out too well for him. He left that gang and decided to take up boating. I'm not sure what he's trying to do here. This is launching his dory fisherman boat off of, I believe, the old dock right by the Bayside Bridge. I'm pretty sure that he didn't have a mooring at that time. There was no moorings in Newport Beach, and somebody told him that if he stood there long enough, he could claim that this was his new mooring. But I'm pretty sure it was Mom said, just stay there. Who sold him this weed? Because this is really, really bad. I'm not sure. that anybody would ever should be punished for that. That's not good. This man is an extremely handsome man. This is almost Dr. Aaron Fox handsome. I mean, this is a good look. And this is a guy, you know, I heard it mentioned, this is the image that I have. This is Bob, and this is what I grew up with. You know, this is what I think of when I think of my dad. So when suddenly, after watching an episode of the Brady Bunch, he came home and looked like this, this was a shock. It was unbelievable. It's like, who is this man? I did not recognize this guy. It was completely crazy. So, I've had some expense at Dad's, at Dad's expense, which had some fun here, but I do miss him terribly. I loved making him laugh. And for those that weren't here and haven't heard this story, let me tell you the story of what happened the last time that we got him to laugh. For me personally, it involves my wife, and we were sitting around the table having a good time, and a mosquito flew on the back of Dee Dee's head. And Chris had said, "Oh, there's a mosquito on your head." So she came around the table, and we thought she was just going to shoo it off, and she would just, bam, just hit Dee Dee right on the back of the head. It was the funniest thing we'd ever seen, and both Dad and I just broke up laughing, just crying laughing. So laughter has been a huge part of his life for his entire life, and I'm grateful that I got to make him laugh a lot in his life, and now he's shared laughter with us again today. So thanks, Dad. And if there was any doubt that this next man is, I forgot to say, this is 80 years, and I put this together to say that 80 years of life well lived. There's a lot of laughter between that one and that one, and I'm really proud of him. So if there's any doubt that this guy might be related to Dad, I don't think there's any question left. So I'd like to bring up my brother Craig. Thank you.
I told you he should have gone last. Damn it. Because in all honesty, right this moment, I got nothing. Yeah. Because I like the crickets, though. and the idea of Caltech was just wonderful. If they had a water polo team, I probably would have gone there. They didn't. But we used to have incredible conversations about science and some of our heroes and some of the ideas beyond, especially in the last probably 8 or 10 years, about science and spirit, sort of that duality that you referenced. And the idea that he was a Caltech chemist and that he was also the social coordinator at Caltech. He sang on the Glee Club. There was always seemed to be that two sides of him, that he had that brilliant analytical mind that could solve things, and then on the other side, I call him up at the moment in college when it was make or break in the biggest class that would determine whether or not I got to continue in computer engineering, and my 6-week project was due the next day, and I could not figure it out. And I called him up, and Dee Dee nods her head because she remembers that phone call. And I remember I was next to Poly Pavilion at UCLA, and I called him up on a payphone because there were no cell phones back then, as I put it to my face. And I said, Dad, I'm struggling here, and I don't know how to solve it. I know you don't know all the things about what I'm doing, but I've got to get this finished. And he said, son, Craig, you're not going to like this, but go to sleep. And we talked for a little while, and he said, go to sleep. It's the best thing you can do right now. And I went to sleep, and I woke up about 4:30 in the morning. I understood exactly what I had to do. I turned it in on time about 9 o'clock in the morning. Everything was great. But it was those types of things, the way that he seemed to know what to say. And I know he did that with all of us. He knew what to say at exactly the right moment. And he kind of carried us, each of us, weaving himself in and out of our lives, in and out in his professional life, and leaving these little nectars of wisdom. And truly, all of the memories and all of the experiences, I literally could fill the next 4 or 5 hours. So I will. Maybe not. However, the thing that really resonates with me is the grace. It's like poetry. His life was like poetry. Every time you got around him, you just buoyed. You just rose up around him. And I think, what an incredible, not only was it a gift that he had, that he gave for us to experience every time we got around him, the way he laughed, the way he cried. He was the easiest to cry and the first to laugh. And other than my children, the loudest laugh. But he brought joy in everything that he did. That smile that he permeated, it lifted your spirit. And today, I'm hoping, there's nothing more that we can necessarily take away because, 100,000 pictures and, 10,000 readings or all the stories in the world can't define what he was. It couldn't, because he had 80 plus years of intense experience that were just his. And he went diving into a world that was beyond all of this, that he understood. That was, I think, what made him so special. He'd go swimming in the spirit of forever, and we'd have these incredibly long conversations about what's beyond, what's real, what's illusion. And I know that he felt and understood that the time here was the illusion. This was the moment that he got to come and play. And I will say, I know he played all of those 81 years. I mean, he went around the world and played. He went and shared that play with so many other people. And so, you know, if there's one thing to take away, perhaps today, is to feel a little better. Maybe there's an insight into an understanding about him, an understanding about life, an understanding about that it's not really sad. And I understand we all have sad. We've all had tears, many of us, obviously. And many of us still get sad. But, you know, we're the lucky ones. We're all the lucky ones who got to spend time with him while he was playing here. So that, if anything, you know, brings me joy. And I know that each of us get to take that with us. I mean, you think of not just the physical. And he was, you know, all 6 of us were as much children, whether the DNA was there or not. It didn't matter. And all of his friends were absolutely the ones that he would hug and that he would care about and he would talk to and spread his joy. And so one of the things that happened, there was a dear friend named his Father Rob Bethencourt, who Dad knew over the years and introduced me to him. And when I emailed Father Rob that Chuck had passed away, and we'd have conversation. What's that? Oh, I get them fixed up. Father Rob Bethencourt, he sent me an email back, and I thought I would just leave it with that. I will ever be grateful that I had a chance to know him and work with him. I have such fond memories of our meetings together at Coffee Creek and of adventures discussing and living the principles. What gifts of kindness and wisdom he has given to so many people. I look forward to our eventual reunion in the kingdom of heaven, where the adventures will continue, I'm sure. Once again, he is leading the way for us. So he knows more than he ever did before, and eventually, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, he'll share it with us as well. So thank you all for being here. And now I get to introduce my little sister. You want to come up, Val? There's probably a picture behind me soon, isn't there? Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Well, first I just want to say that this family is a testimony to him. That all of the love that we pour into this world and that we're able to put into our words about him is because of him. Because he knew how to love. He knew how to enjoy life. So this picture was taken at my wedding in 2001, and it represents to me how Dad danced with life. How he found the step, whatever it was. And sometimes it was slow, and sometimes it was fast. But he always found a way to engage with life in a way that was graceful, that was full of beauty. The end of his life in these past 5 or 6 months, I had the absolute great honor to be able to be with him nearly every day. And the reason I want to share about this time is because it proved to me who he was. He was not just a teacher who spoke about how to live a spiritual life. He was a human being who embodied the Spirit. And that every time he interacted with anyone, he was kind. He was grateful. He was present. I never heard him complain, ever. When he decided that this was the spiritual work part of his life, he surrendered completely to that dance of what was going to happen when he started losing his mind, when he started losing his body. He did not fight. He never fought for a moment. And that was the greatest gift, the greatest teaching that I ever could have gotten from him, was what surrender looks like. And that in that surrender, that his heart got bigger. His love got bigger. His stillness got bigger. And I loved sitting and holding his hands. And that to me was the connection to his spirit. His hands seemed to hold his spirit. And so when there were no words left, I was able to feel the tangible spirit inside of him by holding his hands. So I want to say thank you to Dee Dee. Thank you for caring for him for all these years. And for making space for me to be with him during this time. Because this was what I needed from him. I needed to find our connection beyond our story. And that's what I got. And I will bring this into the world in a way that I never could have had I not had this time. So as I said, this family is a testimony to him, to his spirit, to his humor, to his joy, to his aliveness. And I'm astounded at how many really fucking cool people are in this family. I mean, look around, really. I mean, how could we have this many good-looking, charismatic, funny, irreverent, amazing people all in one family? So I just want to again say that is a testimony to him. It's to all of us, but it was to him that we are the product of his love, his presence. So thank you for everybody that supported me to be with him during this time. And I want to say thank you to Gary, who's been reading for him for these past 28 days, every morning and every night, to help guide his spirit along its path. And it means so much that these 49 days of his spirit's journey is being held by someone like you. So, thank you very much.
There is no end of you finding beauty, love, and understanding in this world. You're not going to stagnate. You're going to keep growing. And the secret to growing is not to try. The secret to happiness is not to go out there and try and find it. Because happiness is not out there. Happiness lies within the consciousness of every human being. If you can take your mind, clear it, become healthy, and see what you've got. Because you all have within you a divine secret that all the wise from the beginning of time have been trying to tell the world. You have it. That's why the great mystics of the world tell you to look within. Because what you seek is inside.
It's about understanding. Just simply understanding. Same as an engineer would have a understanding about structures and stresses. And then you just go with what happens. That's the best you can do. You can't make yourself smarter, but you can certainly allow yourself to become much more creative and effective at what you're doing in any relationship. And that's the power of understanding the principles.
I'd like to give an opportunity for anyone who is here to give a short tribute to Bob, to Robert. So we have microphones up here, so if you'd like to just say a couple of words, just raise your hand and we'll get a microphone to you.
I know I would like to say a couple words. Into the center I go. So I know we've been talking a lot about the different lessons, different teachings, and obviously the love that, to me, Grandpa Bob has passed on to a lot of us. I know that he's the reason I can bait a hook, I can chop wood, shovel snow. He's obviously the reason I squint when I smile. And I know Aunt Val actually taught me this reference that that a soul is the way you hum a song after the music is gone. And I know that Grandpa Bob's will be a song that we're all going to be humming for the rest of our lives. It's going to be a song that we teach to our children, to our grandchildren, and that's how he lives on, through that humming of his song. Thank you.
So to tie into that and to tie into what Sid Banks was saying, I've been wanting to miss Robert, but I don't. I feel him everywhere. And I really appreciate your reading on the wind, because I've been feeling him on the wind for the last 2 days. And it occurred to me is that spirit is everywhere. And Robert is slipping in my child's dreams, other people's dreams. That's Robert. And I saw this bougainvillea, and it was in full bloom. And I was in my car, but my eye went straight to this butterfly. And I thought, Robert. And at that same moment, my daughter texted me and said, this butterfly has been following me all day. And I said, it's Robert, Lauren, because that's her nickname is Butterfly. So it's a surreal experience when somebody passes, because they feel like they're gone, but they're not. And I just really appreciate that. And one other thing, that I'm going to say this at the expense of really making you think I'm crazy, but when I was younger, and Dee Dee and Robert came and visited Scott and I, and we had this beautiful Victorian house with really high ceilings, and I had cobwebs, but I intentionally had cobwebs because I kept them there for the habitat for the spiders. And it was only in a corner because I didn't want to look like I was a bad house cleaner. So I'd have a little talk with them and ask them to move over there. And Robert came over, and he was so polite, but he said, Deanne, you have cobwebs. And I said, no, Robert, those are the spider webs houses. And he goes, oh my gosh, that's a perspective for a training. And I had never heard of perspective. So there's so many things that Robert taught me by his presence. And so I said, okay, well, please just don't use my name in that teaching. So anyway, I feel him. And when we were talking about the wind came through in a gust, and the dahlias ruffled, and it was Robert. And so I just invite us to continue to be on a treasure hunt of Robert, because he's everywhere. and he's in all of you. And we really appreciate all of you coming today.
That's it.
Hi. Nobody knows that I am Bob's sister. And we were the only two at home, and I always idolized my older brother, but he was a mean one. He used to make me eat watermelon rind so I could go somewhere with him. Does that sound like him? And he was great. And I really, when he left to go to college, is when our lives kind of went two directions. And I stayed in Sacramento, and he went Germany and everywhere else. But he was always with me, and we always kept touching with the phone. And I'm just going to miss him dearly. I am the only remaining sibling now, so that's it. So, here's to you, Bob. I'll meet you up there.
Funny how this works. I was getting ready to come here, and I was looking through a pile of papers in my office that I hadn't looked at for some time, and I came across a piece of paper that had across the top in big letters, Robert Kausen. And I had taken notes on one of our last talks, and so I thought I'd end with some words from Robert that were in notes that I took from one of our talks. He says, "I am so wide open to life. I am being touched by everything." He said he was reaching a soft spot. He did like that metaphor, didn't he? He was reaching a soft spot. He says, "I'm relaxing and letting go of frozen memories and strategies and moving into humanity." Isn't that beautiful? He says, "It's like when you're planting plants, you've got to get rid of the old roots and let the new understanding come in." I'm falling in love more deeply. I feel so much more joyful. And he did. Oh. He says, "Pro tennis players know there is a sweet spot. You just have to keep an eye out, and you just have to find it. Then you can have volleys with championship play with other people." He says, "That's it, Dickin. That's it. Maybe we should call it our sweet soft spot." So I know Robert wishes deeply that everyone everywhere can find their deep soft spot. So, thank you.
So beautiful. Todd, Reed, thank you for those amazing montages. Thank you. Beautiful. And thank you to everyone who helped put this together. We have a production team as a family, as you can tell, so everything's top-notch around here. Thank you, Cindi. Yeah. So we're going to have some more food outside, and please take any pictures that are loose on the table that are printed out. You're welcome to have any of them that you want. And I just want to really extend my gratitude to this place, this beautiful place, to Deanne and Scott for really making it a home, and that this was the perfect place to do this. So thank you all for coming.
Look at that, I'm back. All right. So before you walk outside, we're going to probably need Reed down for the camera again, Todd. Well, in fact, maybe we can have somebody else, because there is something that I think we all need to share in a photo with a dad mustache. So I want everybody to come up.